What's up, everybody? TJ and Carrie here with Muscle Growth Mindset. We are back. We've had some downtime before everything that's happened, but then we had some downtime because of COVID-19.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's what we want to dig into today is COVID-19, kind of what's happened with that.
Right.
Maybe why some of the stuff's happened, what we know, what we don't know, and where do we go from here?
Right. Because there's a lot of fear and a lot of misinformation about coronavirus, COVID-19. There was a reason. There was some good reasons for shelter-in-place order.
That probably won't be well received right now to say that.
Right.
But if you rewind a little bit and go back to when all this started, like we didn't know much.
Right.
And we
Exactly.
knew Italy was in a world of hurt.
So Italy, the information coming in from there was that their hospitals were overwhelmed. Their doctors were having to make decisions about who gets to get the ventilator, who gets to live and who gets to die. They didn't have any shifts anymore. Everybody worked until they were exhausted and they went took a nap and they came back out. They were going for weeks at a time. Our front line of defense is our doctors and nurses, and they were at risk and dragging themselves through the mud. You know, they were overworking themselves. It's not a good scenario.
Right. So that's part of the information we had. So, I get it, like rewinding, looking back, like listen, we're going to shut things down for a little bit. The whole plan was to keep the hospitals from being overrun.
Absolutely.
Right?
And it's a smart plan.
Yeah.
You don't want your front line of defense at risk.
Right.
And you don't want to be the guy having to make a decision against who gets to live and who gets to die because you don't have enough equipment to take care of people.
So, originally, from what I remember, it was, the plan was like about 15 days. We're going to flatten the curve, right? Flatten the curve. That's happened, I think. But maybe we took it too far. Maybe we didn't. We don't know. I don't think. Like we can't go back and say, if we would have not done this at all, it would have been way worse, way better.
Not enough information.
There's not enough information. It sucks.
And the thing is, initially when they were talking about flattening the curve, they're like, it's going to be 15 days. I told them, like, in 3 months, 4 months?
Yeah.
Because it's a graph, and this line represents time. And if you're going to flatten the curve, that means you're going to increase the time.
Right. There's no way to know in 15 days.
Right.
And maybe the powers that be knew that. And maybe it was just a way to ease us into this. Because if they would have said, we're going to flatten the curve for the next 3 or 4 months, I don't think it would have been very well received.
Yeah.
And I think we're kind of at that point where it's not very well received.
Yes. So I think one of the biggest problems is a disconnect. And I think it's because they're trying to save everybody, but the whole country it's population density that causes the more people in an area,
Right.
So the big cities, New York especially,
Right.
getting overrun. Dallas and Houston are having some troubles. But the whole country isn't like that. And you're asking everyone in the country to shut down, and they're looking around like, it's a storm, and you're like,
No, it's not.
Not here. Yeah.
Rural America, these things aren't happening.
No.
And it's not, unfortunately, it's not fair. It sucks. Being a business owner, we took a hit. This was tough. It was really bad timing for us.
Yes.
But just all the small business owners, I feel like a lot of people aren't going to recover.
Yeah.
And that's a trade-off that now we have to deal with. And we'll never know, but was it worth it? How many lives did we save? And
Right.
by doing this, how many did we cost? I think that's a debate to have.
I don't ever think it's unreasonable to listen to expert advice, someone who has studied their whole life a certain thing, but you also have to balance that with other factors. I listen to a lipidologist, and my cholesterol levels. He would have some concerns with my ketogenic diet, but I took that information. I'm like, that's interesting. And I went ahead and I'm continuing the ketogenic style diet.
Yeah.
And he'd probably say stop doing that.
Yeah.
I disagree, but I have the information, and I think the guy is smart, well informed.
Right.
Take that opinion.
Yeah. That's one opinion. You need to take several opinions and make an evaluation. That's like, with Fauci, I think he's growing more and more unpopular. And I won't say my opinion one way or another, but in his defense, and Carrie kind of helped me understand this, like a scientist, like science-based thinkers, they deal with science, right? And it's the facts and the information they have at that time.
Right.
So, people are like, well, he said wear masks. Now he's saying not wear masks. Now he's saying we're mask again. Well, 3 months ago we had X amount of information, and maybe with that information it made sense. Mm-hmm. Well, then as we progress, we get more information, so science changes.
Yes.
Right. So, and I feel like, I don't know, but I feel like maybe that was it. He got more information, so now it's a new conclusion. You get more information, it's a new conclusion.
Correct.
I don't always think that way. I try to take into all factors. Like, yes, science says this, but also common sense, and there's other factors that come into play that we have to consider.
Fauci sees the world through the eyes of someone who deals with diseases all the time.
Yeah.
And it's good to get that person, very smart to get that person's input. But that's not everything in the world.
Right.
Diseases aren't everything in the world.
Right. You have to consider all the other factors.
Correct.
For the disease itself, yes, shelter in place, stay home. Nobody should ever get out, and you won't ever get the disease. But you also have to provide for, the economy and families, and you have to eat, you have to work. So I think there's a lot more that goes into those decisions. I'm just glad I'm not in that role to make those decisions.
Right. It's not going to be popular.
Yeah. I don't think there was a right decision.
Because either way, they're going to be blaming you for one thing or blaming you for another.
It was going to be bad one way or another.
Yeah. One of the big things that I think people need to understand is that, especially the ones who think shelter in place is going to cure this thing, we don't know enough about this new coronavirus.
Right.
So we don't have all the information. I cannot tell you with absolute certainty anything for sure about it. What I can tell you is every coronavirus that we've encountered in the past, there has been no cure for. The common cold, flu, all of these things, there is no cure.
Right.
It's still around. We have just herd immunity. We have begun to adapt to it.
Right.
There was never a plan to eradicate this disease. It's not, no reasonable virologist was thinking that. It's not going to go away.
Yeah. So you mentioned herd immunity. So speaking of immunity, some people are saying, you get exposed and now you have antigens in, so you have immunity. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts there?
Well, so first off, once again, we don't know enough about this new one. Viruses present differently with each one. It could be the case that if you get exposed to this, you can still get it. It won't give you any immunity. However, you look backwards in the past, so far, every single coronavirus, if you get it, it gives you some measure of protection against getting it again.
Right. And keyword there is some measure. It's not full immunity. It's like we see with the flu, every year it comes back and there's different strands and different variations. So maybe you're less susceptible to it, but I don't think there's going to be I've had it, I'm good forever.
Getting a cold doesn't mean you never get a cold again.
Right.
Yes.
It may just lessen the chances a little bit.
Right, and it means it's less likely for it to be transmitted and so on. And some of the big fears of this coronavirus is because you could carry it for so long without knowing, so it's highly transmittable. Virologists have been speaking about there being one of these, and that's their fear. This is going to be the thing. And
it's the asymptomatic stuff is scary. It's people that, maybe we've both had it and just had no idea we had it, and we exposed 50 people to it. I think have we had anything like that before?
Maybe nothing as publicized.
Yeah.
The thing with this one, if you think you've had it, you can always go get the blood test.
Yeah.
The other test looks really uncomfortable. They stick this thing in your...
Yeah, the swab. Yeah.
But getting blood tests, you can test for that particular antigen antibody and see if it's working.
All right, yeah, so antigens, help. They, like I said, maybe make you a little less
susceptible
in the future. But like you said, there's really no way to know.
No.
That's what sucks. We wanted to do this video, but we really have no concrete information.
But we do have data from the past, and so generally, you speaking, you can't say with certainty, but you can say on previous coronaviruses, this is what has happened. And there's one more thing about previous coronavirus is that I feel like we're good now. We need to get out there. We need to work. We need to get people exposed because it doesn't like heat. So like you notice, cold and flu definitely, they rarely get transmitted as much during the
summer months.
You can get them, but it's not very common.
Yeah.
It's usually right around November. Well, in October, November, December, when it gets cold, those things come out to play and they infect people. In the past, I've researched a few different strands, the Spanish flu and H1N1. These have all had a second wave that was much worse than the first one.
Yeah.
So very likely it's coming back
Get a
for
second
one
wave.
more good pop.
Right.
So it needs to, we are not at herd immunity. There's not enough people exposed. So it's going to, and there's some mysteries with this thing. There's new things popping up with children were zero risk for death. However, now they're saying there's kids that are having some immunological issues afterwards, presenting with is it Kawasaki disease because they were exposed, and they think there's a connection. They don't know yet, but
time will tell.
Right.
Well, 6 months from now, we'll know a lot more. A year from now, we'll know a lot more. But like you said, there's a good chance there's a second wave coming.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, what does that mean? Like, does that mean we shelter in place again?
It's a tough call. So far, it's shown that maybe wasn't as necessary to clamp down as hard. However, you talked about it would be difficult for you to close down again financially. However, if it got to a point where your employees, your guests here, your friends, were coming down with this, and it became an issue that was, in your face instead of over here.
I think it'd be a little easier at that point. But I mean, if everything that's happened happens again, personally, like my business, I'm going to fight it. I won't shut down.
Right.
But like Carrie said, if my employees are getting sick or my friends are dropping dead, obviously it's a little easier. Like, okay, shit's getting real. I can get shutting down then. But I think as a whole in America, like it's going to be really hard after all this to come back and they'll try to shut everything down again.
I agree.
It's a scary thought if they do, because there will be some rebellion.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. We won't fully understand what is happening and what has happened for 10 years. We're going to have to gather data and write articles, and I'm not saying one more thing. I'm not saying that there's no chance of eradicating this disease. This has got tons of people working on developing new ways to deal with disease. It could be this, which would probably mean we could cure the common cold if we can kill this one. But
long term, this may all be a blessing in disguise, right?
Right.
It could trigger a lot more research in these areas.
Absolutely.
There's an argument for that. I'm going off script here. Like, how many people have died from this, right? How many people die from heart disease every year?
And then there's factual evidence that hospitals are paid more to diagnose with coronavirus. So if they died of a heart attack while they had coronavirus,
it's coronavirus.
Right.
Yeah. But my thinking though there is, look how much money, resources they're putting into this. Like, what if we put those resources into heart disease, right? Like, I mean, this is just a debate thing. Like, it's.
Well, okay, so on the coronavirus, there's not enough, it really still is not enough information to say. How much did we reduce the exposure? How much of the deaths that we have now were prevented because of?
Right.
So it will take a lot of time. And about the heart disease, I don't know. I think it's in the broad field of biochemistry, and in my learning there, it is not like physics or calculus where this equals this.
Yeah.
This theorem widely combines all these in one truth. In biochemistry, it's pretty vague. Most of their papers end with more research is needed.
And there's a lot of factors that come into play, and you get 50 factors going in for this outcome. If any one of those factors change, it could be a different outcome.
Biological systems are extremely complicated.
Yeah.
We do A, and then we get this result Z, and we say it's because D happened.
Yeah.
But what about all the other things that happened in the chain, and then maybe we don't even know about?
Yeah.
We're understanding the beginning of this chain that leads to a process on the outcome of the body. We eat this thing and our body does this, but we still don't know entirely the mechanism. So it's, like I said, it's complicated.
Yeah. I think an important thing to take away is that we don't know. And when you're thinking about this and when you're forming your opinion, just know that we don't know. And
right.
I mean, I think politics has come in a lot.
Yes.
There's conspiracy theories all over the place. There's a ton of things out there. Social media, mainstream media, so when you watch Fox or you watch CNN, just know, whichever side of the fence you're on, still just kind of sit back and take everything in and form your own opinion. Just because Fauci says this happens and this is what we need to do, you need to consider all the other factors. Just because CNN says this is, consider all the other factors.
Exactly. See, and the thing is, you've got to understand, Trump is a businessman. You are a businessman.
Yeah.
You understand, but he sees the world through that lens.
Right.
I'm a scientist. Fauci is a scientist. He sees the world through, and he sees the world specifically through what his, specialty is. It means they have a lot of information about that subject, right? But it doesn't mean anybody up there knows everything and knows how they all play together.
Right.
So it's always good to listen to everyone, and understand their expertise and what they know about what they know.
Right.
But it's fallible. People are human. They're learning, making mistakes.
Yeah, and that's a big thing to understand here. Is it's a learning curve. We don't know. Fauci and there are others that are supposedly the experts on this, but it's still such a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're an expert in that field, but this is new to that field.
Yeah.
This is a brand new thing.
Yeah.
So, in conclusion, we don't know.
No, but we do have some data from previous things that we could say that there was a good reason to shelter in place, learning from Italy, because we couldn't trust what China was telling us, and we still can't.
Right.
But Italy was forthcoming. Seemed like a good idea.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
We didn't have enough information. Definitely you always want to keep your front line of defense, your defenders, your medical, your nurses, the doctors. You don't want to put them at risk.
Right.
And you don't want anyone to have to make choices about who lives and who dies because I'm running out of equipment to save people.
Right.
And it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree, and me and Carrie don't always see eye to eye. We're on different sides of the fence on a lot of things, which is why we do so well together. I think we can debate, and we both take it very well.
Mm-hmm.
It's never
Listen.
personal.
We can listen to each other.
I don't even know where I was going with that now.
But it's a good thing to have. It makes both of us understand the other side, and I pointed out to him there was always a good reason for it. It got overboard, and some people lost sight of the fact that we were never able. There was never a plan to get rid of this disease.
Yeah.
It's not going away.
Yeah, that was where I was going. Is the fact I can look back and I can understand that first couple of weeks, I'm trying to slow this down a little.
Yeah.
But I don't personally agree with the
Methodology.
couple of months of everything shutting down, and but that wasn't my decision to make.
Yeah. But maybe the next time you can make your decision and say no, about shutting down.
Yeah, I've already made that decision.
Come.
It's good to be back. We're gonna keep things rolling again. We've got some topics preloaded, ready to go.
Yep.
So we'll be back on here, and we appreciate everybody. If you have questions, concerns, comments, give us your opinion. And until next time, don't forget rule number 1.